And I'm
Travis.
And we are late to the party, and it's another edition of
Better Late Than Never.
And it's a rebootquel type edition.
Rebootquel. I like that word.
I mean, it is a continuation of stories that were told to us years ago.
Yes.
And we're finally getting sequels. And we had Terminator 2 last week for Terminator Dark Fate.
Yes, but to be fair, this one is going to be a little bit different because, yes, it is. There is a movie coming out that is kind of referencing this, but at the same time, it is also based off a book that happened as well.
It's a weird interweaving of universes, essentially. You've got a sequel to a visual Shining, at least when it comes to what was done with Kubrick's, and then you've got a story that is told utilizing those visuals all in one, but it originated first, the Overlook Hotel for The Shining.
Clearly, we're going to be looking at the trailer to the classic movie The Shining, which was released May 23rd, 1980. So before my time, but I grew up knowing and loving this film. It only had a budget of $19 million, but made $44 million at the box office.
Not too bad.
No, and of course it's directed by Stanley Kubrick and based on a story by Stephen King. So before we get into it, should we just watch this trailer?
Let's watch the original trailer for the original Shining, because there are other iterations.
I wonder who directed it.
Sounds like when you open a car door.
Or your blinker.
Right. Masterpiece of a modern horror.
Or the light when you're trying to cross the screen that has the sound going for blind.
The music, man.
So ominous.
Oh, that's attractive.
Sure is a funky old hotel, ain't it?
That's odd. The blood usually gets off at the second floor.
So iconic.
It's sewage.
Yeah. Rainwater. A leak. Oh, how it covers the lens.
Yeah.
What is going on? They don't even need to tell us because there's already a book telling us.
Right.
So that's the cool thing too, is because there was a book, because it was a bestseller, because a lot of people did know of the story or read the story, because they were Stephen King fanatics when I was growing up. They were everywhere, they were vocal, they were fans. Like that was a fandom, hard fandom back in the day.
I want to ask a question. Would you watch this movie based off this trailer? It's so simple.
It is simple, but it's at the point where you're like, huh, this is interesting. Like, it gives you that point of curiosity because you don't really know what's going on. But at the same time, you're like, you know what? I want to see this movie. And they kind of go off base of like Stanley Kubrick, you know?
Right.
He's the one who's directing this. Then you have, this is based off a book by Stephen King. And then you already have that. You're like, oh, The Shining. And then, of course, you have Jack Nicholson. Oh, it's starring Jack Nicholson.
Right.
So it's kind of playing off of like who is involved in the movie.
Right.
And then you just kind of show them a simple blood sewage
Just
coming out of the elevator, and you're like, what is going on? So it kind of intrigues you if you're somebody who hasn't read the book.
And then that's what I heard too, was that they, in order for Kubrick to be able to get this kind of trailer out there, because of the massive amount of blood, that they had to either change the pigment, or he said it was rainwater, so that way they'd be like, oh, okay, and not think anything of it, because you got a big wall of blood just falling out of an elevator. So, but that's what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but either way it worked, because it got on film. But when it comes to the original Shining, it is iconic moments like this, when it comes to the wall of blood coming out of the elevator, that it cemented itself in horror pop culture because of all those memorable, visually stunning, aesthetically pleasing scenes.
Yeah.
And they echo throughout time because they're very synonymous with this film. You know them, the twins standing in the hallway. When it comes to the wall of blood, when it comes to the all work and no play make Jack a dull boy.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
But it's definitely something that was its own style, even though it was based off of, you know, a novel created by Stephen King.
That very iconic scene, even if you haven't seen the movie, where, you know, he peers his head through the door and he's like, here's Johnny.
Here's Johnny.
Yeah, and we got to go.
Based off Johnny Carson.
Yeah, I'm David Letterman. I'm Mark Wahlberg. All that and more on 60 Minutes. But when it comes to those moments, we're seeing the resurgence again when it comes to pop culture. We're getting the Dr. Sleep film, which is going to connect it to the story. We got to experience I Like Scary Movies, which ended up showing you multiple scenes from The Shining, and you got to go take photo ops with stuff.
It was it was like an art exhibit.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to kind of experience it there, and they did show. And one of the iconic things that you got to take pictures in front of was the elevator with the blood coming through. Of course.
But when it comes to not really showing you a whole lot, you know, the Shining did get a massive audience when it came to all the people that wanted to see something crazy, wanted to see something Kubrick-y, wanted to see something horrific. But for those later, after the fact, that they wanted to bring in, they did, there is another trailer out there that's very 80s, but it's more so very 90s. Like, it feels super 90s. So we're going to watch that trailer too, just to kind of see the difference between old school trailers that probably came out in like 79, 78, more than likely 79. And then we're going to see the one that would come out in the 90s. I don't know why, it just reminds me of like The Fugitive or Waterworld.
I don't suppose they told you anything in Denver about the tragedy we had up here during the winter of 1970? I hired a man named Charles Grady as the winter caretaker. So from what I've been told, I mean, he seemed like a completely normal individual. But at some point during the winter, he must have suffered some kind of a complete mental breakdown. He ran amok and killed his family with an axe.
Well, you can rest assured, Mr. Ullman, that's not going to happen with me.
Yeah.
Mom, do you really want to go and live in that hotel for the winter?
Sure I do. It'll be lots of fun.
The only thing that can get a bit trying up here during the winter is the tremendous sense of isolation.
Is there something bad here?
I fear you will have to deal with this matter in the harshest possible way.
Grady.
But you I killed you with Danny.
You did this to him.
There it is.
Didn't you?
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains. Here's Johnny.
Yes. I love it. Those facial features, man, that's something that Jack Nicholson, I'm in awe when I watch this movie. There's moments of scenery that I just sit back and that's beautiful, but there are moments of appreciation when it comes to Jack Nicholson and the crazy faces that he ends up making throughout this movie, and that slide into madness and separation and isolation, and damn it, does he not go full crazy.
I think it does show like the range of expression that he does make, because you can slowly see him turn into madness in the movie without, you know, like it was like the subtle things that he does in the movie. And it's very creepy.
I think the performances in this film were based solely on how the movie was made.
Sure.
Stanley Kubrick doing constant rewrites, making them act one scene out for 12 hours at a time. Both actors got completely stressed out. In fact, Shelley Duvall ended up like losing hair, getting extremely sick out of it. Jack Nicholson would get scripts for the next one, and he would throw them away, getting all pissed off, saying, "They're going to change anyways. I'm not learning these damn lines."
Yeah.
It'd be crazy. And what I like about this movie, The Shining, it's nothing like the book.
Right.
Like, it's loosely based upon it. And I know fans of the book aren't big fans of this movie. But you can't walk away from saying this movie is not iconic and responsible to what it did to the core function of that book. So.
Granted, like even like Stephen King himself did not appreciate this movie. Like he didn't like it.
Yeah, at first he didn't. But
but
later on,
but then after a while, he kind of thought like going back, you have to do that. You have to go back and you have to watch it, and you're kind of be in the moment of this movie, and you really appreciate what's going on, because that actually happened to me. So obviously, when I grew up, I didn't watch this movie until later, but I watched the TV series, or the mini TV
which
series,
is a really
first.
good one.
And I was obsessed with the TV miniseries. Every time it was on Sci-Fi, I was like, I have to watch it. Like, I was obsessed with that so much. Like, I loved the TV miniseries so much.
Yes, sirree, Bob!
And then I read the book, and I was like, oh, that is part of the book. And then when I watched Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, I'm like, what is this movie? Why?
That's funny.
What? Like, I just didn't grasp it at all. And then we recently watched it again, and I'm starting to realize, like, okay, I see where people took this movie and was like in love with it because of the way that Stanley filmed it.
Yeah.
Essentially, and like all the shots that happen, it's very slow, I will say, but it adds that tension to where you're like, okay, what's gonna happen now? Like it escalates, and you are in for the ride.
Yeah.
When it comes down to those iconic moments as well, they're supplemented by the score and the music. And the score and the music definitely gives you that sense of dread. And of course, like, there's a whole deconstruction when it comes down to, I think it's, what is it called? Dies Irae? When it's talking about the four tones of death that the Catholic monks used to sing back in the day during funerals. And when it comes to this one, it is incredibly prevalent throughout the entire film.
It's right there. They use it.
Locked in.
Right.
Locked into pop culture forever because of the music that is utilized here.
Being locked in pop culture, it not only that, it was selected to be preserved in the Library of Congress. So it's a very huge movie for it to be selected there.
And the big thing is appreciation. I think that is where you're getting a lot of new fans when it comes to everything, whether it is the imagery, the music, the acting, the isolation, the aesthetics, the slow burn that it is. You're finding new fans every day that are appreciating The Shining, and I think that's why Stephen King eventually accepted it and brought it into the world of Dr. Sleep in its own way.
Yes, exactly. Did you know? So Jack Nicholson was always the top runner to play this role.
Okay.
Stanley Kubrick just wanted him and knew he could do it. But did you know who else is up for it? Who they talked about doing it?
John Cusack.
Robin Williams was one of them.
I would love it.
Harrison Ford.
I could see it.
And Robert De Niro.
Okay. Well,
Stephen King didn't like any of them.
Yeah. I mean,
I could see
when you have a vision,
Williams,
it would be such a different movie with Robert Williams.
It would have been, but I think at that point in time, he was so iconic.
He was so new.
For Mork and Mindy as well, that they wanted to go a different direction with it. I guess with Stephen King.
But the thing is that Robin Williams was always attempting to break into the dramatic side. I mean, the man is a well-trained actor.
1980, so this was early in his career. He was still barely breaking.
It would have been perfect because of what we know that Robin Williams was capable of doing in the world of drama afterwards, and seeing that slide of him. I love 1 Hour Photo.
Such a creepy movie.
Absolutely, but the thing is that back then, I mean, he was doing films like Moscow on the Hudson. He's given his all Awakenings, which he worked with Robert De Niro. So he had the prowess to be able to pull it off, but Jack Nicholson just does add that level of scary when it comes to who he is and those facial features and what he adds to Jack Torrance. And then you do end up getting, different iterations when it comes to different studios trying to go back to the well and bring things to life from the world of Stephen King. And I feel like it took a long time, but we're finally starting to hit the stride when it comes to that connection. Especially you got Creepshow being successful on Shudder, and you got Dr. Sleep coming out for the continuation that is The Shining. So I'm glad. Now let's get a good proper Langoliers out there.
So let's go to the Stanley Hotel. So I was obsessed with, I'm still kind of with The Shining, so every time I go to Denver, I'm always like, let's go to the Stanley Hotel. And then finally we did go to the Stanley Hotel, so I got to go inside, and the hotel is based off of, because the Stephen King stayed there when he thought of the idea for The Shining. The place is beautiful, and it is creepy as well because they do ghost tours there too.
Yeah, creepy.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I think it's funny how like in this movie they don't even they don't go to the Stanley Hotel. They go to another hotel that is, or I guess the outside of the hotel is in Oregon. But then, like, the interior of the hotel, they base off of a hotel that's in Yosemite Park. So it's, like, different things that they brought together.
Yeah, make the best iteration that you can out of all the, ambiance that was created within the book to be relevant on screen.
Right.
And that's what they did with the hotel. Room 237, the history behind Stephen King and Room 237 and just Stanley Kubrick. I love that documentary, Room 237. It just covers all these different aspects of the story, of the telling, of the shining, of the meanings of Kubrick, everything, and it's all centered around Room 237 when it comes to this film, when it comes to Stephen King doing what he did over at the Stanley Hotel to end up bringing that to life with his tale.
If you go to the Stanley Hotel itself, they do have a gift shop, and in the gift shop they do have a lot of I guess souvenirs or gifts that are even, it's not even for the hotel itself.
Sure.
It's like they have a whole section for just The Shining.
Yeah.
And they have it for both. They have it for the TV miniseries that you could buy there, and then The Shining, and then they have like a key, and on the key it says like 237, but then there's another one that says another room that's actually the room that's there because they changed it. So.
Either way, it is a fascinating film. It's a fascinating tale. A lot of conversation around The Shining when it comes to all film groups and friends talking. Everybody has an opinion about The Shining, and I love that they did kind of bring a resurgence in Ready Player One as well, getting you a little bit of taste back into the Overlook Hotel.
I think it's funny though to bring it back to the Stanley Hotel because when we went, there was actually a wedding happening there.
Sure.
So it was just funny. It was like creepy, but then also like fun and cheerful because of the wedding.
And Sam and Colby just went to the Stanley Hotel a few months ago. So I mean, there is a fascination that will always draw people to the actual locations. I'd love to see the filming locations for them, especially if there is one up in Oregon. But either way, it's definitely a fun adventure if you've never watched The Shining. But either way, thank you guys for watching this reaction to the original trailer and 80s, 90s trailer for The Shining. What do you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. You can also like and subscribe.
And do the thing on our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, start us.
All the social networking gin joints, you know where they are. Kicking the party, fuel the party, keep the party going on our Patreon. Gets us where we need to go. Check out the Terminator 2 reaction we did for Better Late Than Never last week. And then this coming week, I think we're going a little something different.
Guess you'll have to wait and see because we might be playing some board games.
Oh, okay. I could hear the drums already. Either way, thank you guys so much, and as always,
Now it's time to say goodbye.
party is over.
Bye.
Bye.